Have you ever thought if I just had a little more money, a better job, a different situation, then I'd be happy? And it's easy to feel like contentment is always one step away, right? I mean, we tell ourselves that once I get that promotion, once I move into that new house, once I reach that goal, then life will finally feel complete, right? But here's the hard truth about that. If we're always chasing more, we'll never be satisfied. And that's tough. In the movie Pursuit of Happyness, it tells the story of Chris Gardner, a man who fought through homelessness. He fought through endless struggles to create a better life for himself and his son, and he never gave up though. But you can see the weight of survival on his shoulders. I mean, the pressure to succeed, the fear of failure, the exhaustion of always trying to do more. And that's real life, isn't it? I mean, bills don't stop. Responsibilities keep piling up, and sometimes, no matter how hard we work, right, it feels like we can barely keep our heads above water. I think I'm living a little bit of that right now. So how do we find peace in the middle of all this, though? That's the question. Now, in Philippians 4:10, Paul, sitting in prison, writes to the Philippians, I rejoice greatly in the Lord that at last you renewed your concern for me. Indeed, you were concerned, but you had no opportunity to show it. Now, this is wild. Paul is literally in chains, yet he's still thankful. He's not bitter. He's not saying, God, why am I suffering when I've been faithful? He's grateful for whatever support he's received, even though it came late. Now, compare that to us. When life isn't going the way we plan, are we still grateful? When money is tight, can we still say, Lord, I thank you for what I have? When we don't get the job we wanted, can we trust God that he still has a plan for us? When our situations don't change overnight, do we still believe that God is still good, though? You see, contentment starts with gratitude. And when we start looking at what's missing and start recognizing what we already have, our whole perspective shifts. I want you to keep that in mind. Now, in Philippians 4:11, Paul goes on to say something that really hits deep. He says, I have learned to be content whatever the circumstance. Now, notice that he says learned. Contentment isn't natural. It's something we have to grow into. Because the world consistently tells us, you need a better car. You should have a bigger house by now. Your job isn't impressive enough. Look at what they have. Why don't you have that, right? And social media makes it worse. We scroll through highlight reels of other people's lives, comparing our behind the scenes mess to their picture perfect moments. And the more we compare, the more discontent we become, right? And Paul is reminding us that contentment has nothing to do with what's in our bank account or where we live or how many accomplishments we stack up. It has everything to do with where we placed our trust. And because we depend on circumstances for happiness, we're setting ourselves up for disappointment. You know, in Philippians 4:12, Paul continues this and he says, I know what it is to be in need and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. Now, this is where it gets real. Paul isn't speaking from theory here. He lived this. He had moments of abundance and moments of complete lack, and through it all, he learned the secret. And what's that secret? You know, the secret is a peace. A kind of peace that doesn't make sense, though. A peace that lets you sleep at night, even when you don't know how the bills are going to get paid. A peace that keeps you grounded when life doesn't go your way. A peace that isn't tied to your paycheck, your relationships, your status, your job security, or anything like that. Because peace doesn't come from stuff. I need y'all to hear that now. It comes from trust. And trust that God is your provider. That's big right there, to know that God is always going to provide for you no matter whatever situation you're in. Trust that God has a plan for you. That's big. Nobody else can give you a plan, but God can give you a plan that'll never fail. Trust that even in your struggle, God is working things out for your good. That's deep. To know that no matter what it is you're going through, how bad it is, God is going to work that thing out for you. And Paul didn't need perfect circumstances to be at peace. He simply had Jesus. Now in Philippians 4:13, lets us know that I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. And we all know that scripture. Now this verse is often taken out of context. And it's not about winning a game or getting everything we want, but it's about surviving when life hits hard. It's about waking up and facing another day when you feel exhausted. It's about choosing to trust God when everything around you feels uncertain. It's about believing that His strength is enough when yours is gone. Because real contentment isn't found in having more. It's found in knowing that no matter what happens, God's got you. So what's the worst that could happen, right? Think about this. Chris Gardner spent his whole life chasing success. And in the end, he got it. But what if it hadn't, or what if he didn't ever make it? What if the job never came through? What if things never got better? Would his life have been meaningless? What you think about that? See, here's the thing. When our contentment depends on achievements, we put our hope in something that's temporary. But when our contentment comes from God, it doesn't matter what happens next, though. So what's the worst that could happen if you stopped chasing and started trusting? You find peace. You stop striving. You start resting. You stop chasing what won't last, and you start living with what's eternal. Thanks for hanging out with me today. And I want to hear from you from this one. What's an area in your life where you're learning to trust God more? Drop a comment below and let's talk about it. And if this resonated with you, please hit the like button and share it with someone who might need it. And don't forget to subscribe, because where impossibility ends, God begins. Stay blessed.